Good morning. Hi, guys. How are you? Okay, so today we're going to be doing a live stream, and the live stream is also going to consist of my May giveaway. Now, before I begin, the information that you need in order to qualify for the giveaway is simply as followed. Number one, you need to follow my channel here on YouTube, Spirit of Twilight, and Kevhen LLC. You must follow me on Twitter, which is Zemaju. You can follow me on Instagram, which is also Zemaju. And then as a bonus, for an additional entry, you can subscribe to my newsletter at spiritoftwilight.com. Now, just so you're aware of it, on spiritoftwilight.com, last night I went ahead and did an overall assessment of my inventory and the products that I currently offer. And I decided that I was going to lower my prices. And the reason being isn't because of lack of sales, it's because of when times change, you have to change with the times. So everything as far as my handmade products, jewelry, candles, and also stainless steel products that I order and sell on my website, those are between 10 and 20% off now, which is a permanent price reduction until further notice. So this is not a sale. It's not a promo. You can order whatever you want to, but there is a price reduction of 10 to 20% on all of my handmade products that I make here. Now, one of the products that I do make are my candles, and this is the goddess Aphrodite. It is one of my newest candles, and it's also very beautiful as far as the scent is concerned. I have a pure white soy wax candle, okay, and it does have a little bit of red mica powder. Now, the mica powder is actually cosmetic grade, and the soy wax is organic, and the scents are made with 100% eco-friendly oils or scents that I order from one specific supplier. And I have been for the past 2 years, 3 years, somewhere around there. But these are available. These are also, the candles, I believe, are 20% in reduction. So now you can order a premium candle like this, and because of the amber glass jar, which is reusable and recyclable, and it comes with a metal lid, they are $15.50. And the reason why they are $1 more than the regular jelly jar candles, which is a clear candle in the same 8-ounce capacity, but it's a little bit thinner and a little bit smaller as far as the diameter of the candle is concerned, those are $14.50. So you can get those, and they're all premium. The only reason is because the amber actually costs me more, and I did not include an upgraded price. I only included the amount that I was charged in the price. So you guys aren't getting charged for anything extra other than what I pay on top of the actual amber itself for the difference in the color of the candle. So I'm going to light this and we'll get started. Again, this is Aphrodite. And it is apple and rose with a little bit of pomegranate. Excuse me. So we're just going to let that sit to the side. I'm going to take it out of the frame because unfortunately it's going to mess with my camera. And it still is. Oh, joy. Okay. Then we shall put this over here. Making sure that I do not knock it over. Okay. So, as you noticed this morning, I announced that there was going to be this giveaway. Now, the giveaway is going to consist of a couple things. And the giveaway is the first one that I'm doing probably in about a year. And the reason for that is because I didn't have a lot of traffic on my website. And so what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to do a giveaway for 4 items. And the 4 items consist of the Tarot of the Divine, which is a tarot deck, obviously. It comes with a hardback box, a user guide, and then it also comes with, of course, the tarot cards. Now, the reason why I'm doing this giveaway is because the tarot cards are actually really nice, and I love the artwork on them. They're actually very, very beautiful. I ordered these a while ago, and they don't work with me or don't speak to me as well as my other decks do, or some of my other decks do. But I wanted to do a giveaway because I only used this deck twice, or only touched it twice. So I put everything back in order the way it should be, the way that I got it. And this is a deck is by Yoshi Yamachani, Yashitani, it's small print. So it's inspired by deities, folklore, and fairy tales from around the world. And again, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous deck. The retail price for it was actually $19.99, and it's from Clarkson Potter Publishers, which is an imprint of Penguin Random House LLC in New York City. And I really like the deck. Again, I really like the artwork. I'm not keeping it because I don't use it. And quite frankly, it's been sitting on the shelf for quite some time. So I dusted it off, I cleaned up the box a little bit, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do a giveaway for this on my channel. In addition to the tarot deck, I'm going to put this up here. I'm going to be wrapping 3 things. And the 3 things I'm going to be wrapping is first the clear quartz. Now, this is a raw clear quartz, as you can see. Okay. And it does have a point on it. It's very pretty. Very, very pretty. Okay. And then also the hematite, or hematite, whichever you like to call. And this is a raw form of hematite, but it's been tumbled. So it does have a little bit of gold flecks in it. It has a blackish, bluish, and brownish tint, almost like a rust. And then last, I'm going to be wrapping a mini wand from Selenite. So this I'm going to be wrapping in copper. Actually, a matter of fact, everything I'm going to be wrapping in raw copper, as you can see from the rolls that I have over here, are the spools. So I'm going to wrap this as a little wand, and this is going to be a pendant. This is going to be a pendant. So you're going to get the wand, 2 pendants, and the tarot deck if you join and follow me on social media. And then also, if you do sign up for my newsletter at spiritoftwilight.com, in addition, you'll be getting an additional entry. Now, the result from the excuse me, my voice is crazy. The ending result, as far as the winner is concerned, that'll be announced on June 1st. So you have about a half of a month or 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks, to get your entries in. And once I do announce it, which will probably be on Instagram, so that's why you want to follow me, Them and You. I'll probably tweet the winner on Twitter, and then I may do a short video here on YouTube about the winner as well. So if you follow me on the other channels, you're going to get notified of who is the winner, and we'll just simply go from there. So let's go ahead and get started on our wraps. So that's what we're here for today. So I'm using an 18 gauge solid copper wire to start off with. And I think I'm going to start off with the clear quartz. So let's move these aside. And grab my handy dandy wire cutters. And I'm going to cut off about 6 inches. Then I'm going to take another piece of 18 gauge. And I'm going to cut the same length. There we go. And I'm also going to take a third piece and cut it a third time. And the reason why I do this is because when I make the bail with some of my designs, they're flared out a little bit. And they're a little bit more intricate. They take a little bit more time to do a weave and a design on it, but it's well worth it because a lot of people appreciate that instead of getting something that you could buy at a local shop. So let me grab these really quick. A local shop, and the local shop will just offer a weave or actually just a wrap. It's not really a weave, and it's just a couple wires. But for people that are spiritual and they like not to flaunt their spirituality or practices, whatever they do, in the workplace or with friends or family, they can go ahead and wear one of my pieces, which has been more intricate and looks like a regular piece of jewelry. So one of the reasons why I started making jewelry, which was about 4 years ago, is I used to do macrame with my mother when I was a child, literally a child. And when I was forced out of my job in the corporate world because of my hearing loss, I've actually been deaf since birth and it's hereditary. So there was really nothing I could do about it. And that forced me on disability, which led to long-term disability and led to where I am today. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. But I started doing this artwork again when I realized, hey, you know what? I can actually go ahead and start designing art and start designing jewelry. And since I have the experience in macrame, it gave me an edge on how to do things a little bit more intricately than most people would do. And this wire is so thin and I cannot get it out of here. So I may have to just cut it. There we go. Okay, so I'm using a 28 gauge, which is a really fine type of wire to use. And you're gonna need a lot of it if you're gonna do something like this because of it being so thin. It's gonna be so intricate and beautiful. And sometimes you may not even see the weave. Now I was gonna use 30 gauge, but I decided, you know what? That's a little too thin. So I'm gonna go ahead and start off with 28 gauge, and I'm going to start this actually in the middle. I'm going to do an intricate type of weave. So I'm going to change my mind here. I'm going to go ahead and split this at the half mark. There we go. Okay. So now I'm at the half mark here, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap this 3 times. Okay. And then in order to create that beautiful intricate design, I'm going to take my second wire and line it up, make sure that it's centered. And move over a little bit. There we go. And we're going to wrap this one. Now that I'm working with 2 wires, I need to follow a pattern on both sides. So I'm going to take this wire and pull it to the side because I'm not going to be using it. And we're going to wrap this 3 times. And we'll take our third wire. And we're going to wrap these 2, the top, 3 times. And again, these pieces that I'm making are going to be the actual giveaway items. And of course, if you don't win the giveaway, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But yeah, I'm not doing it in any way, shape, or form. To make a decision based on who does what or how many likes you give me or so on and so forth. This is just a giveaway because I want to be nice. And you can still take advantage of the up to 20% off my website. And if you do sign up that newsletter, I do offer sales only to people who have signed up for the newsletter probably 80% of the time. So that's something you should keep in mind as well. So I'm actually creating this weave here, and I'm going to keep going until I feel like the bail is long enough. Now we're going to do it from both sides as well. Got that down there. Make sure those three, make sure they're tucked in. There we go. Okay. One, two, and three. So I don't know a lot of people on YouTube as far as my channel is concerned. So I would like to learn more about you guys, and if you guys actually do any type of wire wraps for jewelry, or if you do any other type of crafting, such as I have a new channel that I just started, and that is just kevhen.com, which is also a new website that I started. And those are based off of bullet journaling and also small business. So some people have asked me in the past, can you give me recommendations based on your small business and how I can start and so on and so forth? And my answer to that is basically it depends on the state where you're living. It really does. So I've decided I was going to create that particular website as well to offer advice, not professional advice. It's just advice that I have worked with. Okay, so as you can see, we've actually started a weave. And this is going to be a part of our bail. So now that I've got a few done on this side, I'm going to turn it around and do the other side with the same number of weaves. And I know the center because I wrapped only one wire to start off with. So that is good to know when you start doing this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to just start over here, just like we did with the other one. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Two, three. So this is the boring part. When it comes to people watching my videos, unfortunately, it's not the most entertaining thing. So I try to talk a little bit and try to get to know my audience a little more. Because I know people who have ordered from me the most tend to come from Twitter. And that's usually where I spend most of my time as far as Twitter is concerned or social media is concerned. Because I don't have that big of a following on Twitter, but I have a bigger following on Instagram. And quite frankly, I'm not a big fan of the new metaverse, so to speak. So I try to keep everything on Twitter. However, with Elon Musk, I don't know what's going to happen there either. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we need one more. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. There we go. So now we have an even pattern based on both sides of my weave and my wires. And push that in. And I believe that's going to be big enough. I'm going to do 2 more weaves on both sides. just to be sure. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And turn it around. One, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Okay. And by the way, I'm using only a round wire. I'm not using any square wire or anything of that nature. Okay, so this is going to be my bail. So what I'm going to do first is take my handy dandy protected flat nose pliers and press this out so it stays flat. Okay. And then a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll take a pen or something of that nature, like take one of my Bujo pens, and they'll just go ahead and wrap around the pen like so. And that creates a bail. Okay, now I like to do this personally when I have a double-sided or reversible pendant that I'm making, and I'm going to try to do that today because I don't like selling things that can only be worn on one side. To me, the artistic ability of doing so is lacking, and again, that's just my opinion. But that's the way that I do things. Okay, I wrap this 6 times, so we're going to go ahead and mark that off. And we're going to lock it in. 2, 3. There we go. Push that up all the way. And then I'll do the same to this side. I'll take that guy, pull him out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And 1, 2, 3. Just make sure it stays. There we go. Okay. So that is the beginning of our actual bail itself. Now, how do we get this to stay together? What we're going to do is we're going to take the opposing wire on the other side and pull it into the front side, back side, if you want to call it that. We're going to take the back wire and pull it to the front tight as we can. We're going to wrap that 3 times. 2, 3. And we're going to do the same on this side. Let in, make sure it's tight. 2 and 3. And I swear my candle is getting in the way of my thought process. It smells like wonderful apples and roses in here. Woo! Okay, so now the bail is secured together, but as you see, this bent a little bit, so I'm going to straighten that out. Take flathead nose pliers, the ones that do not have the nylon on them, and we're going to kind of move that out a little bit on this side and just twist this over. And since I did with one, it did it with the other automatically, so no worries there. Okay. So now we have everything attached. Now, this is the part where you have to decide what you're going to do with your stone. And this is an elongated stone, as you can see. So I can make very intricate designs if I want to, or I can go ahead and just make something very simplistic. A friend of mine in New York City, I gave him and his husband a set of pendants as a gift because he bought quite a bit from my website. And plus, I've known him for a long time. He was actually on my Spirit of Twilight magazine 2 years ago, I believe. He was my second or third person. Coffee break. Need my voice. Excuse me. Second or third person that I interviewed. And I made him a pendant because I really I love him and his husband. They're wonderful people. They really are. And so I went ahead and shipped those inside of his package as well. And I do that from time to time, especially if I get to know people and people follow me online and YouTube and what have you, is I do go ahead and send them little special extras. I have a few regular customers that usually spend quite a bit of money, especially on candles, and I'll send them crystals that haven't been tumbled yet, because I do tumble my own crystals. Some of them I do purchase, like this I purchased, it was raw. This one I did purchase, it was tumbled from my supplier. But I do send people gifts at times just because they do spend a lot of money, and everybody's money is very valuable today. And I appreciate their business significantly. I mean, greatly. But anyway, getting back to the wrap. So what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to move. Actually, let me start on this side. These wires are longer a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to start off with these two. I'm going to pull that one aside. I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping this a couple times. There we go. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep this flat. Okay, so you want to keep everything as flat as possible. A lot of crafters and jewelry makers like to use a square wire, which I do have, but I don't have it in copper. I actually have it in a copper wire with a titanium overlay. And I made a video a couple days ago. I went live and then had to delete it and made another one the same day. I believe it was 2 days ago. And those wires are good. And the reason why I decided to go with that type of wire is because that's how I started making jewelry. And when I made jewelry with this in mind, is because that wire is relatively inexpensive. You can buy it at Michael's. You can buy it at a lot of crafting places. So for someone that was re-entering the crafting field and making their own jewelry, it was imperative to me that I started off doing something rather inexpensive. But the overall benefit of those pieces is they have a protective layer on them. And that protective layer prevents tarnishing from occurring on the piece. So nobody ever has to polish them, whoever's wearing it. And it's also very resistant to acidic skin. So when you're buying jewelry, buying a overlaid color piece of jewelry is not a bad thing. They can last a very long time. I also make jewelry with, as some of you may know, with 925 sterling silver. And as you well know, here I do make it with copper as well. This is raw copper. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to purchase something that isn't a solid or bare metal per se, but you also get a better quality sometimes out of the overlay because you don't have to polish it. Now this one over time will tarnish, and some people, including myself, actually like that look, and it looks antiqued. And I really like that look sometimes. As a matter of fact, if you wanted to force it to have an antique look, you could buy acid that you could put the jewelry in, and I believe you put it in there for a little while, then you brush it off, and then you have a piece that does look antiqued. Okay, so I'm actually starting a different type of wrap here. compared to my other one, as you may or may not be able to see. There we go. Okay, so it's a little bit more open, getting back to the actual wrap itself. So I'm going to do this just one more time. And the reason being is because I'm running out of wire, and it's not hard to start off a wrap when you've run out of wire. I just feel that, in my eyes, as I am a perfectionist, to do the best job that I possibly can for my clients especially. Okay, so got this wire here. I wrapped it around 3 times. I'm going to move this over to the other side because I'm going to add a swirl, and I did cut myself short a little bit. That's okay. Okay, so I'm going to make sure this is a little tight. I'm going to wrap this just one time. Okay, now I'm going to move this aside for a second. I'll move those back. And I'm going to take this wire, and I'm going to create a spiral out of it. So I'm going to bend this really tight. And I don't like using tools when it comes to making spirals. And the reason for that is because, unfortunately, it may scar, dent, or put a mark on your wire that you don't want to have there, or don't want there. Okay, so now I have my little spiral, as you can see. And what I'm going to do is just continue this until it's about maybe a half an inch, a quarter inch completed. I'm going to take my pliers, my small nose pliers, and I'm going to pinch this and push it down. Then I'm going to go to the back of the spiral, and I'm going to cut this. Actually, it's a little too big. So we're going to cut that off probably about halfway. And I'm just going to push that into the back of the spiral. Till it lays pretty much flat. There we go. Okay, so my little tiny itty bitty tail here, I'm going to try to wrap it around once just to make sure that the spiral stays in place, which when you let jewelry, wire jewelry specifically, hang out for a little while, it has a tendency of getting harder. So like I have rings that I made, and I know I said I was going to do an update on my website today, and I will once I'm done with you guys here. Push that back in. I'm going to add some new items that I've been working on and made, which are hand wrapped rings. Now, I make hand wrapped rings at different types of vendor shows, and those rings are just a single wire, nothing fancy. The ones that I made to put on my website are hand woven. So they have an intricate design looking to them and does not look like a piece of wire that you purchased from one of the shows. Okay, so let's just take this and measure it really quick. That works. That's actually very pretty. Okay, so I'm going to take this one and I am going to do another spiral, but I'm going to do it towards the top just to kind of even out the design. So this one's going to be tight, maybe just a loop, like so. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to take this back wire and I am going to work this around the piece itself. So I'm going to pull this out a bit, move that over a little bit. And just kind of wrap this by itself. And this is where these small, itty bitty, tiny, slim wires get to be a little time consuming, is where you have all of these wonderful, for hours at a time, and just make jewelry, 6, 7 pieces, 8 pieces. And because I love it and that's what I do. And just make sure this is nice and tight. Into the spiral, or into the loop rather. There we go. Okay, perfect. So that's right at the top of the loop. And this came just a little bit, so I'm going to move that back. Okay, I'm going to move this over. Pull that out a little bit. Then I'm going to jump over the loop from the back and continue doing this. Like so. Now, a lot of the wraps that I do, I'll use the 18 gauge copper wire, and then I will go ahead and use a 22 gauge as my physical wrapping wire, which I almost switched to right when I started this, just to make it a little different. But because this stone is rather thin and long, I don't want to take away from the stone. Okay, so that's sitting there. This is sitting here. And I'm going to wrap this into the spiral on the other side. And my lighting compared to your lighting is completely different. I have my lighting on very low because it causes a glare, a really bad glare when I'm doing this, just because the jewelry is so shiny or the wire is so shiny. And for me, it's kind of dark, so don't mind me if I'm squinting or I'm going a little slow. There we go. Okay, so I've got one wrap in there around spiral. And by the way, as far as shipping is concerned, I need to change my shipping. Especially if somebody is just ordering a piece of jewelry, I'm charging way too much for shipping, I think. So I need to adjust that on my website. But I have flat rate shipping as of right now, which is a good thing, I think. That way you're not paying an astronomical rate for shipping. Okay, so that's all connected. And this is a little lopsided. That's what I wanted, because I didn't want something that was going to be anything that you would see. Plus, I wanted to cover most of the white portion of the stone and keep the clear portion visible for when you're wearing the pendant. So what I'm going to do next is take this piece here. I'm going to go around to the back, and I'm going to wrap this a few times. There we go. I'm going to try to move this up. Okay, perfect. There we go. Let's do 6 times. We'll do 3 more wraps. I like working with number 3, 6s, and 9s as far as my jewelry is concerned. Okay, then we're going to go back around this way to the back of the stone again, and to the other side, just like we did before. I'm not sure this is tight. I can't come out. And we're going to go ahead and wrap 6 more times. 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. So now the bottom of the stone is pretty much in place where it needs to be. Okay. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to end these pieces here. But I need to make sure the back is completely secured. So I'm going to take the 2 or 3 back wires that I have, and I'm going to push them down over the back of the stone. And the reason why I wrap these in the front is to protect the sides, but also it gives me an idea of just laying down the wires in the back so they lay flat and they come off the bail instead of it being kind of like a 90-degree angle or 45-degree angle directly. It now fits the actual stone. So that is a huge benefit as far as when your wrapping is concerned and keeping everything organized the way it should be. Okay, now this piece, what I'm going to do is I am going to use the 22 gauge wire, which is thicker. And I'm going to use this on the back side. And as I mentioned before, hopefully this will come out where it is a dual-sided pendant and can be worn from either side. That's my intention, so I'm hoping it comes out that way. Sometimes with the wire, you never know because the stone could slip. And that is just a part of the life of wire wrapping jewelry. So I'm going to start for my first one just like before. I'm going to move this all the way up. Hold it in place, move it over. And I'm going to wrap all 3 of these together. I'll move that up. The stone falls out, that's okay. You can put it back in, not a big deal. It's just when you get everything ready to wrap entirely and get a finished product, that's when you have to worry about the stone slipping. But you can always fix a stone that's slipping while you're in the process of completing your actual wrap. Okay, I'm going to move that up as quickly as possible and closely as possible to the bail. And make sure they're not overlapping because you don't want a design that doesn't look great. Okay, so I have 3 wraps there. So what I'm going to do is go ahead around the back side again, like so. I have to cut that tail. When I get done, pull this out straight. Move these up a little bit out of my way. Okay, so again, I'm going to do 2 wires on this side. 3. And then I'm going to separate these a little bit and move this to the side. Now this is going to be a little difficult because I'm working with a thicker wire. And I'm also trying to hold the stone at the same time. So this is the point where the stone matters, which is the reason why I put a semi-soft hold on the front going to the back. I'm going to extend that out quite a bit. Then, being that this wire is thicker and it's a little harder to wrap, to create the type of weave that I'm trying to is a little difficult as well because it's an open weave. Go to the back again. Make sure that stays together. Open that up. And this weave is a little bit different than the front. There we go. Move it across again. Maybe I should use a smaller or thinner wire with this, but I really want to use the 22 because I like, in some weaves, I like to show off the weave as well as the stone. And that's what this 22 gauge wire does. It shows off the weave a little more. So the winner will actually have an option to wear it either way. There we go. And let's do this one again. I call this a front and back weave because I'm not doing the 8 simulation or design, if you would. Like I've seen a lot of people do it, and it's actually very popular. It's very pretty. It really is. But I kind of just want to keep this more minimalistic. So it's not quite so intricate. Okay, keeping that in place to make sure it doesn't slip and doesn't close on me. Because you want to keep the wires apart at this point. Okay. Oh, there we go. Now you can start to see the open weave. So that was my intention, was to keep it open. So let's do this again. Let's go over this side. Pull it tight, but don't move your wires, which is the 18 gauge. Push that in. Like so. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I have that other wire that was left over. And whoops, my stone's starting to slip. That's not a good thing at this point. Push that back in. And I will strengthen those when I get done here. Of course, this isn't exactly as tight as I wanted it to be. Okay, so back to what we were doing. I'm going to take that outside wire, I'm going to put it on the inside, and then I'm going to create a spiral in between the actual weave. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. Oop, there goes my stone. I'm going to leave it out since it came out. The same thing as before. Clip. It's a little shorter. And make sure you put your hand over your wire so it doesn't go flying in like a cup of coffee or at a cat or what have you. Bend this back and then flatten it just like the other one. in the front. I think one of the misconceptions about wire wrapping with a lot of people is they don't realize they're actually getting a very, very intricate piece of jewelry. It's not costing them a fortune like it would at a jewelry shop, but also they're getting a design that is pretty much unique. It's not like anything else because it's not made by a machine. And that's one of the things that I always tell myself when it comes to wire wrapping jewelry is you're getting a custom piece. Okay, so I just wrapped this 9 times and trying to decide if I want to leave the other side bare or if I want to put a wire on it. I think I'm going to leave it bare. Okay, so let's do this. Let's bring these two back together. Like so. And I'm going to just go ahead and wrap this down to the point where the two 18 gauge wires are coming together again. And the reason why I'm doing that, it kind of looks like an eye to me, which I really like. Kind of like the Eye of Horus. And I love mythology, so that works out very nice for me as far as the design is concerned. May not work for everybody, but it works out for me. I like it. There we go. Okay, so now that's back together. And we can pull these two in. Wrap it 6 times. Okay. That's nice. Okay, let's put our stone back in. And at this point, hopefully it wants to go back in. That can also be a problem. Because if it doesn't, then I have to come up with another way to wrap it, which isn't really an issue. It's just I had it in here. It comes out. It's kind of like a dog that doesn't want to behave. They don't want to listen when they're a puppy. There we go. Okay, so the stone is back in. Now what I'm going to do at this point is this. I need to close these off in order to complete this. So I'm going to do another wrap with the thin wire. And the reason why is because you really can't see the thin wire when I put it in between thicker wires here. So let's go ahead and do that. So 3 times. There we go. Make sure this is tight around the stone this time. That way it does not fall out. Move that back over and then pull it to the front, wrap it around this one. Oops. And this is the point where it gets a little tricky because all of your wires now you can't bend them out of the way. You have to work with what you have, and that is perfectly okay as long as you know what you're doing. Let's see. Okay. I'm satisfied with that. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this little wire to the back. Move these up slightly. And rock copper is actually my favorite metal to work with. Again, I explained before the tarnishing abilities, and it actually helps move energy, not only in the body, but from the stone to the person or the wearer, and back and so on and so forth. Okay, so what I have here is a rather elaborate design on the front, as to where you can see more of the actual stone itself. The back is more or less just kind of like a gradual point going to a point at the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take the 22 gauge and I'm going to wrap it over the 28 gauge to make sure that it stays secure and doesn't come unraveled to the front. Excuse me. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clip this off. I'm done with it. So I'm going to clip that short as I can, leaving about maybe 3/16 of an inch to maybe 1/4 of an inch. This way I have enough to wrap it around again to the back. And the reason why I'm doing that, I need my other pliers, because anyone that comes up below, oh, that's really pretty pendant, and I really love it, and it's really nice, and where did you get it, and blah, 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 blah. People are going to come up to you, and they're going to grab it. And I'm like, oh, that's so pretty, ding. You get cut. I don't want that to happen. Okay, so now I have this part done. So what I'm going to do is take these wires, pull them out a little bit, and I'm going to take my nose pliers, and I'm just going to finish these off with a beautiful spiral, like so. Okay, and I'm going to do the same to this one, but go in the other direction. There we go. Okay, so it's a little bit intricate. It's kind of nice. And then I'm going to place those against the stone, so I know that it's secure. And again, if anybody comes up to you and, oh, I love that, they grab it, they don't get pinched or cut, or they don't damage themselves for the most part. Okay, so now I have this wire here. Now, this wire is attached to that very small 28 gauge. So I'm going to do a spiral, but I'm going to do a very, 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 how should I say, close-knit spiral, per se. There we go. Now, this also gives it leverage on the sides. So it protects the sides again from any slipping. And this one I'm going to do a little bigger, because there really isn't a design over here. Let's do this one a little bit bigger. There we go. And I'm going to close that shut. Okay, there we go. So this is our clear quartz wrapped in solid copper. It is two-sided, and that reminds me I need to cut this piece before I forget, or actually I'll tuck it. It's short enough to where it can be tucked. So we're going to take this and we're going to put it inside the bale. And get it in between the wires so nobody gets scratched or cut. Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is our clear quartz two-sided pendant. And this is actually the back side. There we go. And this is the front. And I only declare them as the front and back because that's how I made them. You can declare however you want. But this is a clear quartz crystal. It is soft tumbled, so it is pretty much raw. And it's actually very pretty. I like it a lot. It's actually one of my better designs that I've done. Move that over a little bit. And by the time the winner gets this, it's going to be all set and ready to go. Again, the longer it sits, the better the wire actually sits, but you can see the stone. It's not going anywhere. It's in there. It's secure. So we're going to put that one to the side. The next one I'm going to do is the hematite or hematite, however you like to call it. Little coffee. Okay, we're going to wrap this in copper too. And the reason why I chose copper for this one is because of the rust color that you can see in the stone. It is a raw stone itself that's been tumbled. So it's not like one of those that are magnetic. This doesn't have magnetism to it. I do have a couple like that, and I have a couple rainbow. But I decided to use this one just because of the color. It's really pretty. It's very much a stone that could be worn pretty easily with a lot of different things. Okay, so on this one, I'm going to be using the 22 gauge as my base wire or starter wire. And I'm going to take this leftover piece that I had, and this is a good reason why you should never throw away any pieces to me longer than 4 inches. It's because you can reuse them on another piece. So I'm going to do probably 4 of these. And this wrap is going to be a little bit different. This one I'm going to start a little differently than I did with the other one. There we go. And there was number 4. Okay, so I have 4 pieces of 22 gauge wire. And before I start this, I'm actually going to take a little 5-minute break because I have to go turn off the pool and turn off the hose as it's filling up the pool a bit. I do live in Florida, and unfortunately there is maintenance that we have to take care of down here. So I'm going to close the camera shutter so I didn't stop. I'm just going to go ahead and I will be right back, okay? See you in a minute or two. Give me 5. Okay, we're back. Hi again. Okay, so what we're gonna wrap next, as I mentioned before, I'm using the 22 gauge, 4 pieces to wrap this hematite, and square stones can be a little difficult. I need more coffee, hot coffee. So what I'm gonna do is I want to see if this measures up to the actual stone. Okay, that fits quite nicely. Now it's a little oblong on one side too, so you want to keep that in mind that there's going to be a lot of bending with the wires to hold the stone in place. Because number one, as I mentioned, is a square stone, is oblong, and also it's probably going to be a little difficult to wrap. So I might actually do it this way. Yeah, I'm going to do it that way. Okay, so let's take our 4 22 gauge wires here. And again, they're about maybe a foot each. And this time I'm going to use 26 gauge. I'm just going to pull this out. I've already got a kink in it. That's one of the drawbacks of wire wrapping. Pull that out. There we go. Sometimes it'll break, so you have to be careful. And I'm going to pull quite a bit of wire on this. Probably a good 6 feet. I'm going to kind of clip that off, put it aside. Okay, now this one, I'm going to start off kind of the same way, but it's going to be very different in the ending process. So I'm looking for the middle of this 26 gauge, which is right there, and then I need to find the midpoint for this too. There we go. And again, this is easily done or easier done with a square wire because I'm trying to keep the 4 wires that I have flat. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, there we go. So that was 10 on this side. I'm going to flatten that out. I'm going to turn this around, do the same thing. 10 on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the reason why I got this side done faster is because the other side is already set. So when I push this down, all the wires should lay flat on both sides, like so. Okay, now this is going to be the base of the bottom of my stone. Oops. This is one of the things with the polished, awkward stones you have to be aware of. So I'm going to take this, put this on the bottom of the stone. I'm going to hold the wrap that I have in the center of the stone. In the center of the stone. And I'm going to push the sides around the stone, like so. Now, as you can see, my centered wires actually moved, and that's okay. And then I'm going to bring this to a point at the top. So we're just kind of getting a guide of what the stone looks like. Okay. We're going to take the stone out. I'm going to move these back to where they were. And this is one of the reasons why I don't crimp anything too tightly until I've got everything set the way I need it to be. Okay, there we are. So now that's centered. Everything is flat. We have a shape of our stone. Okay, now we can start wrapping the way that we want to design. Now I'm going to take on one side all 4 of these wires and I'm going to separate them like so. I'm going to take the back or the wire, wrapping wire that I'm not going to be using currently, and pull it to the back so it's out of the way. I'm going to move this wire to the starting point and I'm going to wrap around one wire. Now this 22 gauge wire that I have that I'm using as a base is not as thick as my 18 gauge. So it's going to be a little bit more flimsy to work with. So I wrap that 3 times around the first wire. Then I'm going to go to the second wire. Try not to move the first wire and wrap the second wire 3 times. Okay. 1, 2, there's 3. Okay. I've got 3 wrapped there. So I'm going to do the same thing. Move this wire out of the way. Try to gauge about the same space as you wrap the other wire, and you're going to wrap this one 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to push those close together. There we go. And last but not least, number 4. Again, keeping it spaced. 2, 3. Okay, so now you've got this web starting. And I'm just going to push these in a little further to look nice and neat. So now what I'm going to do is come back, but I'm going to pull these in a little closer together. Because see how that fits on the stone now? I want to bring it back over here. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3. And over to this one. Again, holding it a little closer. 1, 2, 3. And then the last one. Make sure that's straight. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So I'm just going to take my little pliers here and just make sure they are nice and neat and even and sitting where they're supposed to be sitting. Okay, so now you have kind of a web going on between the 4 wires. So I'm just going to straighten these out and leave them be. I'm going to come to the other side and do the exact same thing. I'm going to space these out even on the other side. And we're going to wrap. Now what this is going to do is going to hold the stone at the corners better, since I'm working with I don't want to use the word peculiar, but a very differently shaped stone compared to what we normally use, or what I normally use when I wrap. So just keeping this, looking at the other side, engaging about how far away the wires are. 2, 3. Okay. Move these out of the way. Tuck those in. Next one. 2, 3. And this can get difficult because you want the layers to show in between each one of your wires. Oops, I did that wrong. I'm going to go over, not under. 2, 3. Okay. And we're going to go back. Again, moving outward just slightly. So the wires, as they're extending straight, that's how I want to wrap them. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Back under. Oops, I thought just a little too much. 1, 2, 3. Last one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're going to space these out slightly. So you can see the spider on both sides, the spider web on both sides. Okay, so now we're going to reposition the stone in here again. Like so. And we're going to lay all the wires down against the stone, like so. And that is not even for me. So let me move this over. Okay, there we go. All right, so what I've done is I've actually created a cage around the stone. Okay, very simplistic, but it's also kind of hard to do entirely, especially if you're just starting out in wire wrap jewelry, because you have to gauge everything with that type of short yet spider-like wrap. There we go. Okay. So now we got this set. I want to move this over a little bit. Move that over a little bit. Same on the other side. I'm just double checking my work really fast. Okay. All right. Now, these little wires, again, they're not the easiest to work with, but they do add a lot of beauty to your pieces. Let me get this out of here, that out of there. And that piece is right there. This piece is over here. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take both of these wires, pull them together, and just very carefully laying them flat, going around all 8 wires a few times. Okay. So as you can see, it's very flat, very neat. Okay, so now your stone is secure already. Now there's a little bit of a wobble in there, which is fine. I can tighten the excuse me, tighten the wires when I'm finished. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to create my bail. Now I have a kink in here, so I need to get that out if the wire doesn't break. And again, this is not my favorite thing because sometimes the wire does break and you lose the wire that we're working with. If that's the case, you just go ahead and wrap the wire somewhere in between other wires and start, not over completely, but you start again from where you left off. Okay, there we go. So I got the kink out mostly, and I may not even use that much of the wire, but it's better to have more wire than it is too little wire. Coffee. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is create the bail. Now the bail, since this wire is a little bit smaller in thickness, I'm going to use 2 wires and treat them as one. And take the 2 ends, pull those out, and take the next 2. Pull those out, and then your last 2. Okay. So now you're ending up with 4 sets of 2 wires, and you have 2 small wires, which is the 26 gauge wire. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, and I don't do this very often, but I really want to try it, is to create a bail with all of my wires put together. And I'm challenging myself to keep them flat while I do this. There we go. Actually, I'm going to do a more intricate weave on this. So I'm doing the same technique as I was around down here, but I'm closing everything up. I'm not leaving it open like I did. We're also working with 2 wires at the exact same time. There we go. I'm going to go over this side. Keeping everything as flat as possible. And originally I wasn't planning on doing this kind of a wrap with this stone. I was planning on doing something very basic, but the person that wins for my May giveaway, I want them to be happy. I know they're not paying for anything, but I still want them to be happy. And that is a huge part of my work ethic when it comes to design. There we go. Okay, so we got the 2 there. Open this back up. Keeping everything flat. Everything in sync. Pull that together a little more so we have an even wrap all the way up the bail. There we go. Back through. And I'm starting to make things a little closer as I've noticed, and that's not what my intention was. So let me open this up a bit. There we go. So that doesn't overlap. Okay. Then a little closer. This is not twisting on me. Yes, it is. If I go out of the frame, I apologize. It's just something that I do. It's not intentional. Okay. Pull those apart for a second. They are twisting, and I don't want them to twist. There we go. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is move my bail in closer. And move these out just to keep the dimension of the wire. And I want to move these closer, so I'm going to bend my 2 outside wires inward. Because I want to bring them back together. And this is where it gets messy because all 8 separate wires want to do their own thing now. Okay. Okay, so we're bringing this back in towards the center. So I'm going to bump this over. And the center ones, I'm going to bring it a little closer as well. There we go. And I'm going to stretch these out a bit. Okay. There we go. Okay. So now these wires are coming back together. And they look a little wonky, and that's okay. Because the bale is going to go around. And I'm actually going to start pulling these in tight. Or tighter. This is getting a little difficult to work with, but okay, and then the last one. Figure out which ones are which. So again, I did not plan on doing this. I just kind of like, yeah, let me do something different. Why not? Let's make things more difficult. Okay. So there we have, phew. All of our wires are intact. They're all wrapped around in an even number. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to wrap this around the entire bunch of 8 wires a few times. Like so. Then I'm going to bend my bale back. And see what happened? They all separated. They all fell into place. That's why I wasn't worrying about the weave so much. Because as you bend this, all of these wires are now separating from each other. And that creates a really nice piece. So I need to, and I usually don't use the pen, but this one is coming out a little flat. And that's not what I wanted. We're just going to use the pen to shape it a little better. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to blend the back pieces into the weaves that we created right before we made the bail. Okay, and this piece technically is not a dual-sided or a reversible piece. It can be, but it's not something that I personally would wear either way. Okay. So we rubbed that quite a few times just to make sure that the bail is intact back to the base and the casing of the stone. So what I want to do now is going to get a little intricate with these wires just because I can. 3, 4. Okay, so I'm dividing them in 2. And I like to use these to create a drape. And the reason why I like to do the draping is because it looks so nice and so kind of modern, if you would. So let's go ahead and create a drape here with these wires. My cat somewhere. Thought I heard him playing with this toy under the table or under the desk. Okay, and then I'm going to separate these 2 wires, which is the ones that I used to wrap. And I'm going to move this down underneath like so. Yeah, he's at my feet. Okay. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this a few times. 3. And then what I'm going to do to hold this in place is I'm going to keep wrapping until I reach this little piece here, the part of the web. That way I can tuck it in. Underneath. And secure it in place with that web wire that we have. Are you chewing my flip-flops, little guy? What are you doing? Keep wrapping a few times. There we go. Okay. So let's bring that up this way. And one thing that I had to learn when I started wrapping is you can't let the wire control you completely. You have to learn to control it. So I'm going to take this and bring it to the top. And I'm going to end this right here by putting in the bail. So I'm going to clip my little 26 gauge. And I'm going to tuck that in. Excuse me. the back of the set of wires there. And this piece, I'm going to cut them all. I'm going to take these, I'm going to put them inside of the bale. And make sure that they're laying flat. Okay, good. Okay, so now we have our other set of wires over here, and I'm going to pull them to the front, or to the other side rather. No, it's not working the way I want it to. Okay, so let's straighten you guys out. Called wire behavior. Kind of like a small child. Got to get it to do what it's supposed to do. And I accidentally put this wire through the others that I was working with. So I'm going to start with this and start wrapping around these 4 wires. Now you could, if you wanted to, just let everything be the way that it was and call it a day. Or you could do what I'm doing and making something out of all these wires. I don't even know how long I've been streaming. Oh, wow. 2 hours. Okay. Practically an hour for each pendant. I'm going to take this and put it through this other wire to secure it. My cat is going to die. He wants to play. He's going to be 2 next month on the 8th. Excuse me, 2 next month on the 8th. And so he's just a little guy, but he wants to play. And he wants to play all the time. Okay, so this piece here, I think I'm just going to drape it this way. Again, control your wire. Don't allow you to control you. That'd be good. Yeah, let's do that. That's pretty. Okay. So that works. That's actually very nice. I like that. Kind of like a larger spiral / rosette type of design. That's nice. Okay. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to finish this portion by also pushing it through to the bale. So again, we're going to cut. And as you can tell, this wire is a lot easier to cut than it was the other, because it is thinner than the 18 gauge. 18 gauge is quite thick. I usually don't go any thicker an 18, maybe a 16, depending if we're working with a bigger stone. But for the smaller stones like this one, I want to make sure that I'm working with a gauge wire that matches the stone and doesn't overpower the actual stone itself. Okay, so I've got that all set in. So what I'm going to do next is just clip this and tuck it like I did with the other one. Cut that short, tuck this one in. There we go. Okay, so this is our hematite, whatever you like to call it. And I have the little swirl rosette on the side, as you can see. And it has a spider wrap around the stone to keep it secure, which certainly is secure now, that's for sure. You can see the bottom. And then here's the back. So if you want to wear this either way, you can, really. But I personally like the front because of the swirl rosette combination. It's kind of unique. Okay, so this one's done. So this is winner number 2. Now, last thing I'm going to do is the Selenite Wand, which is just, I believe, is 2 inches, maybe. It is 2 1/4. Okay, so 2 1/4 inches. Just a little wand. I'm not making an actual pendant out of this. I'm just wrapping it. So I'm gonna go back to my 18 gauge copper wire, and I'm almost out. Actually, I have 2 more rolls, I believe. And I'm gonna take off a foot, maybe. And selenite, this is raw. This is not tumbled, so it does have. It can splinter. Actually, it is a little tumble, maybe a soft tumble. You can see. So what I'm going to do is how I make my little wands. And this is not like my wooden wands, and I stopped making them because people didn't buy them, except when I was on Etsy. And as we all know, I don't care for Etsy. Is I'm going to take the end. I'm going to make a little loop on the end. Okay, and transition that loop into a small spiral. And these I don't sell on my website, and the reason being is because I use these as a bonus item. And what I mean by that is if you order something from my website, you'll likely get one of these or a small little candle that I made that I don't sell directly. Okay, and that is the same size as the selenite pieces you can see for the ending. So I'm going to take that and hold that in place, and then I'm going to wrap around the entire body of the selenite. Like so. And then we're just going to move these around, make it a little bit nicer. Little guy, making too much noise. I can hear you when I'm deaf. Okay, so now that we have this wrapped around, I'm going to take that spiral that I made, and I'm going to tighten it. And that's going to tighten the end of the wire itself. Okay, now some people, and what I've done before, when I sell these, I used to sell them at my shows or the vendor fairs. And what I used to do is take beads and use a smaller wire and put beads around. the base as well. But I haven't done a show in quite a while. It's been over a year. Actually, it's been almost 2 years. Holy cow. I didn't even think about that. Okay, so we're going to take this piece and make a spiral out of it. Same as the other side. That'll tighten everything. And this is your wand. It's very simplistic, very easy to do. If you have a piece of selenite or somebody gifts you a piece of selenite, you can make this wand. And then, of course, just like with any copper wire, it becomes more solid as it sits. Now, copper wire, just to talk about that for a second, with copper wire, it transmits energy and helps blood circulation. Now, what I'm going to do in the future, in near future, is I'm ordering small itty bitty pieces of selenite that are raw, and I'm going to be putting them in resin and going to be making pendants out of those. So keep your eyes open for those as soon as I get a chance to start making them, and as soon as I get my product in, so I can start producing them. But I wanted to try something different with jewelry and actual natural gemstones. So that's something I'm going to be doing soon. But copper also transmits energy from the body to the stone and from the stone to the body, or the crystal to the body. So in a metaphysical speaking way, or occult, if you would, you can actually store your energy in the stone and retrieve it when you want to because you're wearing it. And that can become a talisman, rather. It can become a piece of protective jewelry. If you wear it, it depends on what you charge the actual stone with or the crystal with. But certainly it is something that you can do with jewelry that is made with solid copper wire or a copper wire overlay. Don't think that the overlay jewelry that you buy that is less expensive doesn't have the copper wire capabilities if it's made with copper wire. A lot of them are made with aluminum at the core, and that's a no-no for me. I don't do that. The quality of the aluminum is terrible, and it's just cheap. It is so cheap. And I really don't like people who make that kind of jewelry. Forgive me if you're one of them, but to me, it's just so cheap, and it's a knockoff, and I don't like it. But this was my wire wrapping for this live session on YouTube. And these are the 3 pieces that I'm going to be giving away in this beautiful month of May for a lucky winner. And along with that, again, the Tarot of the Divine deck and guidebook is also included in this particular giveaway. So by all means, if you'd like to enter, again, I have everything written in the description of this video. This video is automatically going to be posted to my YouTube channel. You need, once again, follow me here on YouTube. Okay. Comment what you love about the summer months that are up and coming. You want to go ahead and, excuse me, follow me on Instagram. Optional, follow me on Twitter. And then also as a bonus entry, to give you 2 entries in one shot, is to sign up for my newsletter at spiritoftwilight.com, which is where I sell my jewelry and also other items that I don't have here, except for the candle that I showed you, the Goddess Aphrodite candle. I have several candles available. Some of them I just made last week, but they are ready for shipping. And again, this smells wonderful. It's apple and rose, and that is true to the Goddess Aphrodite, along with the pomegranate scent that it also has, which is very mild. So the rose is very mild. The apple is there, so it makes it sweet. It's not overbearingly rose. Again, this candle's $15.50. I have others available for $14.50. I'm still doing a clearance on my 4-ounce and 8-ounce candles on my website, and those are priced to sell. 4 ounces are $5.50, and the 8-ounce candles are, I believe, $12.50 or $10.50. I don't remember. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to enter to win this set from Spirit of Twilight. Again, follow me on social media. On Instagram and Twitter, I am Zenmajoo, Zenmajoo. And also, you can email me if you want to for custom jewelry for my website. My email address is hello@spiritoftwilight.com. And I will see you guys soon in the next video. Take care. Bye.